The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. Introduction. Imagine this. You're standing on a polished hardwood floor under blinding lights. The air is thick with smoke and anticipation. You're in Buenos Aires, Argentina, at the Tango World Championship semifinals. You can feel the nervous energy of your dance partner, Alicia, beside you. The crowd, a roaring sea of 50,000 people, is a distant hum. For the last 5 months, your life has been nothing but 6-hour-a-day practices, a complete immersion into the soul of the tango. And now, your moment has come. The announcer's voice booms over the loudspeaker. Pareja numero 152, Timothy Ferriss e Alicia Monti, Ciudad de Buenos Aires. The crowd erupts. And as you step into the light, a single thought flashes through your mind. What on earth would I be doing right now if I hadn't left my job and the U.S. over a year ago? That fleeting question is the very heart of the book we're exploring today, The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. This isn't just a book, it's a global phenomenon, a bestseller that has been translated into over 35 languages, and for more than a decade, it has served as a dangerous little red pill for millions who have swallowed it and woken up from a life they thought was inescapable. The man who found himself on that tango stage was once a prisoner of his own success. He was an overworked, underfulfilled entrepreneur, tethered to his email, working 14-hour days, 7 days a week. He was making more money than he'd ever dreamed of, yet he was more miserable than ever. So how did he get from that self-made prison to a world championship stage in Buenos Aires? How did he engineer a life of adventure, freedom, and purpose, all while working less? That is the promise of our journey today. We're going to pull back the curtain on the secrets of what Ferriss calls the new rich, a subculture of people who have rejected the deferred life plan of work now, live later. We're going to learn how to escape the 9-to-5, live anywhere, and design a life that isn't about waiting for retirement, but about living your richest life, right now. Book summary. Our story begins not with a grand plan for world travel, but with a quiet desperation familiar to so many. Timothy Ferriss had built a successful sports supplement company from the ground up. By all traditional metrics, he was a success story. He was making over $40,000 a month. But this success came at a steep price. He was working from before sunrise to long after sunset, 7 days a week, chained to a business that was consuming him. He was, in his own words, grossly overworked and severely underpaid in the currencies that truly matter, time and freedom. He had built himself a cage, albeit a gilded one. He felt trapped, stupid, and utterly exhausted. His life was a runaway freight train, and he was shoveling coal into the furnace for lack of a better option. It was during this dark period, this chronology of a pathology as he calls it, that he had a profound realization, one that would change everything. He asked himself a simple question: what is it that people truly want when they say they want to be a millionaire? Is it the number in the bank account, or is it the experience they believe only millions can buy? The exotic travel, the freedom from a boss, the ability to wake up and do whatever excites you. The fantasy isn't the $1 million, the fantasy is the lifestyle of complete freedom it supposedly allows. And this leads to the revolutionary question that drives the entire book: how can you achieve the millionaire lifestyle of complete freedom without first having the $1 million? This question gave birth to a new philosophy, something Ferriss calls lifestyle design, and it introduced him to a hidden tribe of people he calls the new rich. These aren't the old money aristocrats or the workaholic billionaires. The new rich are those who have abandoned the deferred life plan and created luxury lifestyles in the present, using two currencies that are far more valuable than money: time and mobility. To join them, Ferriss developed a 4-step process, a recipe for reinventing your life. He gave it an acronym: DEAL. D is for definition. E is for elimination. A is for automation. And L is for liberation. This framework is our map. It's the path from the cubicle to the open world. So, let's begin with D, for definition. This is where we tear up the old rulebook and replace it with a new one. The first rule we need to rewrite is our definition of wealth itself. Society teaches us to measure wealth in absolute income, how much money you make per year. A person making $100,000 is considered twice as rich as someone making $50,000. But the new rich know this is a lie. They measure wealth in relative income. It's not just about how much you make, it's about how much time it costs you. Imagine two people. Jane works 80 hours a week and makes $100,000 a year. That breaks down to about $25 an hour. John, on the other hand, works only 10 hours a week and makes $50,000 a year. That's $100 an hour. In the currency of the new rich, John is 4 times wealthier than Jane. He has more freedom, more time, more life. The second rule we must redefine is retirement. The old plan is to work tirelessly for 40 years, sacrificing your most vibrant, healthy decades, in the hopes of enjoying a few golden years at the end. Ferriss calls this worst-case scenario insurance. It's a gamble that assumes you'll even make it to retirement in good health, and that you won't be bored out of your mind after 1 week of inactivity. The new rich approach is far more intelligent. Instead of one massive retirement at the end, they distribute a series of mini-retirements throughout their lives. Think of it as taking a 1 to 6 month adventure every few years, moving to Italy to learn to cook, living in Argentina to master the tango, or volunteering in Thailand. These aren't just vacations, they are periods of recharging, learning, and rediscovering yourself. But before we can even think about mini-retirements, we have to confront the biggest obstacle of all: fear. Fear is what keeps us standing still. It's the quiet voice that says, "What if I fail? What if I can't pay my bills? What if I ruin my resume?" Ferriss introduces a powerful antidote to this paralysis, an exercise he calls fear setting. It's the practice of defining your nightmare. Instead of letting vague anxieties control you, you write down, in painstaking detail, the absolute worst things that could happen if you take the leap you're considering. What would be the permanent impact on a scale of 1 to 10? How likely is it to actually happen? And what simple steps could you take to get back on track if it did? When Ferriss did this exercise before his first trip, he realized his worst-case scenario, his business failing, his money disappearing, would only have a temporary impact of maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10. And it was incredibly unlikely. On the other hand, the best-case scenario, a life of freedom and adventure, would have a permanent, positive impact of a 9 or 10. He was risking a temporary 3 for a permanent 10. The choice became obvious. This leads to one of the book's most profound lessons: what we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. Once we've redefined our reality, we move to the second step, E, for elimination. This is where we wage war on the obsolete concept of time management and learn to create more time. The goal isn't to do more, but to do less. Ferriss introduces 2 powerful principles that serve as our primary weapons. The first is the 80-20 principle, also known as Pareto's Law, named after an Italian economist, Vilfredo Pareto. Pareto discovered a simple but universal truth: 80% of outputs come from 20% of inputs. 80% of a company's profits come from 20% of its customers. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And, crucially, 80% of your problems and unhappiness also come from 20% of your sources. When Ferriss applied this to his own business, he had a stunning realization. Out of more than 120 customers, a mere 5 of them were bringing in 95% of his revenue. The other 95% of his customers were consuming nearly all of his time and causing all of his headaches. So, he made a radical decision. He fired them. He stopped chasing them, stopped calling them, and focused only on his top producers. The result? His monthly income doubled, and his work hours dropped from over 80 per week to just 15. The lesson is brutal but liberating. Focus on being productive instead of being busy. Most of what we do makes no difference. Being busy is often just a form of laziness, lazy thinking, and indiscriminate action. The second weapon in our arsenal is Parkinson's Law, which dictates that a task will swell in perceived importance and complexity in relation to the time allotted for its completion. If you have 24 hours to complete a project, the time pressure forces you to focus on only the essentials. If you have a week, you'll spend 6 days making a mountain out of a molehill. The secret, then, is to combine these two laws. Use the 80-20 principle to identify the few critical tasks that matter most, and then use Parkinson's Law by giving yourself very short, clear deadlines to complete them. To make this possible, Ferriss insists we must go on a low-information diet. Just as we consume empty calories, we consume empty information, endless news cycles, social media feeds, and emails that are negative, irrelevant, and outside of our control. He challenges us to stop watching the news, stop mindlessly surfing the web, and ask ourselves one simple question before consuming any piece of information. Will I definitely use this for something immediate and important? If the answer is no, ignore it. This ruthless elimination extends to the single biggest interruption in modern life: email. The average person checks their email dozens of times a day, allowing their inbox to dictate their priorities. Ferriss's solution? Check email only twice per day, at set times like noon and 4 p.m. Set up an autoresponder that trains people to respect your time, letting them know when you'll be checking messages and providing a phone number for true emergencies. You'll quickly discover that very few things are actually emergencies. This is the art of elimination, doing less meaningless work so you can focus on the things of greater personal importance. Once we've created time, we move to the third step, A, for automation. This is where we build a system to generate income without our constant involvement. It's about creating what Ferriss calls a muse, a low-maintenance business that funds your ideal lifestyle. The key to automation is to remove yourself as the bottleneck. You must build a business that can run and grow without you. This begins with one of the most transformative ideas in the book, outsourcing your life. The concept is brought to life through the hilarious and eye-opening story of A.J. Jacobs, an editor for Esquire magazine, who decided to outsource not just his work, but his personal life to a team in Bangalore, India. His assistants did his research, answered his emails, paid his bills, and even argued with his wife for him. At one point, he even outsourced his worrying, paying an assistant to worry about a business deal for him so he could relax. And it worked. While it sounds extreme, the point is profound. You must learn how to delegate and become a commander instead of the commanded. Getting a virtual assistant, even for a few hours a week, is training wheels for the most critical skill of the new rich, remote management. You learn to give clear, precise instructions and to trust others to execute them. But what do you automate? You create a muse. And the perfect muse, according to Ferriss, is often an information product. Think of a how-to guide, a DVD series, or an online course. Why? Because information products are low cost to create, fast to manufacture, and hard for competitors to duplicate. The profit margins can be astronomical, often 10 to 50 times the cost of production. The process for creating your muse is systematic and designed to minimize risk. First, you don't start with a product idea. You start by finding a niche market you already belong to or understand. Are you a rock climber, a dog lover, A student? Find a group that has its own magazines and online communities, a group that you can reach affordably. Second, once you have your market, you brainstorm a product for them. The key here is not to invest a single dollar in manufacturing. Instead, you move to the third and most critical step. You microtest your product. You create a simple, one-page website that advertises your product as if it already exists. You can use testimonials from friends or clients. You then run a short, inexpensive Google AdWords campaign, spending maybe $50 a day for 5 days, to drive traffic to that page. The website should have a Buy Now button. When customers click it, they're taken to a page that says, "Unfortunately, this product is on back order, but we will notify you when it's available." This simple test tells you the only thing that matters, not if people say they would buy, but if they actually try to buy. You are testing commercial viability before you've spent a dime on inventory. If the test fails, you've lost a few $100s and a few days of work. If it succeeds, you now have a proven winner. Only then do you invest in creating the product. The final stage of automation is building the architecture. Your goal is to design a business that runs itself, where you are not in the flow of information. You do this by using third-party companies, or outsourcers, for every step of the process. You find a contract manufacturer to produce your product. You hire a fulfillment center to store your inventory, pack and ship orders, and handle returns. You use a call center to answer customer phone calls. You use a credit card processor to handle payments. Each of these companies communicates with each other, not with you. Your role is simply to check the reports and watch the cash deposits in your bank account. You become the ghost in the machine. This brings us to the final step of the DEAL framework. L, for liberation. This is the mobile manifesto, the art of breaking the bonds that confine you to a single location. Even if you're an employee, liberation is possible. Ferriss lays out a step-by-step process for negotiating a remote work agreement. It starts with proving your value. By applying the principles of elimination, you should be able to dramatically increase your productivity. You become so valuable that it's more painful for the company to lose you than to grant your request. The process involves a series of small, reversible steps. You might start by calling in sick for a day or two and ensuring those are your most productive days ever, leaving a clear email trail of your accomplishments. Then, you propose a one-day-a-week remote trial, framing it not as a personal perk, but as a business benefit that increases output. You make that one day incredibly productive, then expand the trial to 2 days, then 3, until you've achieved full mobility. The key is to ask for forgiveness, not permission, and to present every step as a revocable test. Once you've achieved this freedom of time and location, the world opens up. This is when you embark on your mini-retirements. And here's the final, beautiful secret. Living this lifestyle is often cheaper than staying at home. Ferriss shares his own experiences, living in a penthouse apartment in Buenos Aires, taking private tango and Spanish lessons daily, and eating at 5-star restaurants twice a day, all for less than $1,500 a month. He lived in a huge apartment in a trendy part of Berlin, taking language classes and martial arts, for less than $1,200 a month. When your income is in dollars but your expenses are in pesos or rupees, your money is automatically worth 3 to 10 times as much. But after the initial excitement of travel and adventure wears off, a new challenge emerges. It's a feeling that hits many of the new rich, an existential void. With no deadlines and no boss, the big questions creep in. What am I doing with my life? What's the point of it all? This, Ferriss argues, is the final hurdle. The answer isn't to find some single, cosmic meaning of life. The answer is to fill the void with 2 fundamental pursuits: continual learning and service. Use your freedom to master a new skill, to learn a new language, to push your physical and mental limits. And find a way to serve, to do something that improves life for someone other than yourself. This doesn't have to mean saving the world. It can be mentoring a child, composing music that brings joy to others, or simply helping people solve a problem. This is the ultimate endgame of the 4-hour workweek. It's not about being idle. It's about subtracting the meaningless work to make room for a life that is truly your own, a life of adventure, contribution, and continuous growth. Commentary. When you step back and look at the 4-hour workweek, you realize it's so much more than a business book. At its core, it's a philosophical rebellion against the unexamined life. It's a permission slip to question the rules that society has handed us, the rules that say you must trade your life for a living, that your dreams must wait until you are old and gray, and that being busy is a badge of honor. What's truly remarkable is how prescient this book was. When it was first published, the idea seemed radical, almost like science fiction to some. But today, in a world of digital nomads, remote work, and the gig economy, Ferriss's vision seems less like a fantasy and more like a field guide to the modern world. He didn't just predict the future, he provided the blueprint for it. The most powerful lesson, for me, is the redefinition of wealth. The idea that our most valuable resources are not dollars in the bank, but hours in the day and the freedom to choose where we spend them. It forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. Are we rich in the things that truly matter? This isn't a book about being lazy. In fact, applying its principles requires immense discipline, focus, and courage. It's about being effective, not just efficient. It's about having the clarity to distinguish between the urgent and the important, and the guts to let the small, bad things happen so that the big, good things have a chance to emerge. So, how can you start applying these ideas today, even in a small way? First, conduct a personal 80-20 analysis. For the next week, pay close attention to your daily activities. At the end of the week, ask yourself, what 20% of my actions created 80% of my happiness and sense of accomplishment? And, just as importantly, what 20% of my activities, or even people, caused 80% of my stress and frustration? The answers will be revealing. Second, try a 1-week low-information diet. For 7 days, no news websites, no mindless scrolling through social media, no television news. See what happens to your focus, your mood, and your ability to be present. You might just find that the world keeps spinning without your constant supervision. And third, define one dreamline. Pick one thing you've always wanted to do. Learn a language, travel somewhere, master a skill. Go online and calculate the actual monthly cost to make it happen. You might be shocked to discover how achievable your impossible dreams really are. That was a look at the 4-hour workweek by Timothy Ferriss. We've explored the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you hold the book in your hands and let the ideas sink in. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a fire in you, if it has made you question the path you're on, then I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new strategies. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see your work, your time, and your life. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.